it is time for something I've been excited to share for absolute ages. Uh, as you can see, like, I'm a Layla main. I'm a Layla main because I started playing Genshin when I was really sick after I finished my master's in genetics. And I was a tired grad student who had just submitted her thesis. I ended up in hospital after I pulled Baija and I actually got my Alhaitham while in hospital. So the tired academic has always been a very special character to me, but throughout all my academics, I've been doing a lot of mathematics, specifically mathematical modeling and programming in R. R is a great software. I learned how to use it during my undergrad when I was working on epigenetics, and I continued to use it throughout. During my master's, I adopted a mathematical model of loss of virus transmission in R, so I've done like mathematical modeling, and because of that, even though I do mainly play Genshin for the lore, it became inevitable that at some point I was going to start theory crafting. Now, I don't theory craft for like maximum damage in abyss or things like that. I theory craft for silly little teams, but I still do it. And I want to show you how I've been doing this and what I'm going to be doing in the future, because I've been working on building an R package. Now, I'm going to switch to a software screen, don't be alarmed. But here we go. This is my R screen. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave it at the maximum size just to make it a little easier. But yeah, so I have made this markdown I started using called Organize Your Genshin. And it does a couple of things, and it's something I want to build up on, so in future I can use this folder called Genshin TC to make an R package that theorycrafts in Genshin. Now, the script currently has some problems and the data isn't up to date at all, but I'll show you the data, I'll show you what I have, and I'll show you actually how I recorded. So what I have is I have my characters with the character, the constellation, the level, the talents, and I've been adapting that that sheet to have the base multipliers of their kit, like HP base, HP multiplier base, attack base. So like if somebody has, I'll give you the example of Ito. Ito has on his own at level 90, I'm calculating everything at level 90, 12,858 HP, 227 attack, 959 def, and he has a crit rate multiplier where his base crit rate, rather than being 0.05, is 0.242. I'll turn on the sheet. So I do all of this in VS Code. So if we turn off the software, we turn on the data. There you go. That's how it looks. So we've got the data for Ito. And this is kind of what I've been recording. And then what this script does, obviously we don't delete Ito, I still have a C1 Ito, is if I go back to OBS and turn the data back off and turn on the script again, so we load in all our characters and we generate these builds. So the builds are who I want to play and how I want to play it. I give each build a name. Example, I used to have 2 build ideas for Amber. Or actually, if we go... Yeah, this is before I got Ito. So... There we go, Ito. Serpent Spine, Husk of Opulent Dreams, death, geo damage, crit damage, I always note down which stats they're supposed to have at the end. And then I also load in their weapons. So every weapon has an attack, a stat value, and a stat type, and a refinement. So if we go back into the data, it's a little more up to date there. And we look at my weapons. Example, the serpent spine we were looking at before has here 510 base attack, which is pathetic for a claymore, but it's the price you pay for using a crit rate claymore, and 27.6% crit rate, which is actually why I no longer use it on E2. Now I actually use the white blind, which has 510 attack. So you're actually, if you compare it, you're having the same base attack on a white blind, but at R4 you're getting 51.7% defense, and E2 does scale of defense, so himself giving himself crit rate, it obviously makes it all really useful. But yeah, so the way I've been using all of this is I make all these calcs. But what is really interesting here is a little spreadsheet for artifacts. As you can see, it's 1,783 observations of 14 variables. So what happens here is we have the artifacts, and I have made this sheet painstakingly, and I have to update it because I did a lot of strongboxing, where I wrote down every artifact I have, which level it is, what the main value is, what the substat is, and what all the substats are, and that allows me to essentially run an artifact optimizer offline on my own computer. I do love the Genshin optimizer, it's just, it runs by GitHub on a browser, and if I have to code something, I like coding it myself as a little exercise. So I'm just going to walk through what I've done with the script so far. I'm not going to run it because I have to debug it. I haven't touched this thing in months. But I just wanted to give an intro to how I've been theory crafting. And while we do all of this, I am going to reduce the game volume on my end because it's really, really loud. Boy, I've never sat down in that long before. But yeah, so this is ridiculous. There we go. So, what I do, if we go back to R, is you load in your characters, your builds, your weapons, your artifacts. You can also export them if you're like calculating your roll values. That's what I did before. And then with the artifacts, I did a thing where I calculated the roll values and the crit values and the CVs, mainly the roll values. So you start with the roll values, and then what I did is I took all the ones that I had and arranged them by how many ones I was missing of each set to kind of make a strongboxing priority. I no longer do that because now I go by the build table. I've changed my build table. I'll show you how it looks now. It's no longer this one. The builds are now have a sorted order. So they're sorted by how much I care about the character, essentially. So I'm a Layla main, so Layla is at the very top. We actually gotta change her weapon because I decided to do something. So yeah, I can also here show you how I used this. So Layla is on a Dock Hands Assistant. She is on, for this build, for the main Layla build, Tenacity of the Millilith, Vorkashik Low, and triple HP. Now, this last is what I use to make my strongboxing priority, which is the build correct? Like, are the artifacts correct, and are they present? So I actually have to differ between it, I'll show you why. So present means, do I have the set bonus that I wrote down for the set? Like, do I have what I want? And correct is, do I have the substats that I want? Well, the main stats. It's not substats, it's main stats. And what you then do with the script is you calculate artifacts that you own in your inventory that are unequipped, that fit these criteria, and then you can compare the builds. And you can also sort it by artifacts that are equipped. Now the lovely thing is the game did that for me when they did the artifact, the low note update. I am actually really happy about it because it's exactly what I was coding myself before. But I still want to do the coding because it's just fun. So we're just gonna now go through the code I have and see the builds I have and see if they're present and correct. And like this, I can also talk a little bit about how I built my account, because if you've been following me, you've seen my Silly Little Teams series, which is a really good example of how I do love playing the game, and I do love playing teams that synergize, but not necessarily in the way that is best from a meta perspective. Because as you can see, my next priority build, my second priority build, is Yuma Mizuki with Sunny Morning Sleeping. Now, that's not a meta build, but that's the main DPS on my account. So, what we're doing is we're playing Mizuki with her signature on VV, on EM, on 1000 EM. I am actually going to do a thing in the future where I build a function for each character, just make a little function that takes their constellations and their kit into consideration. And I'll make like a little function for each weapon probably, and each artifact set. And it will do all the calcs. So I'll make like a weapon function, artifact function, and then a function for each character. And that will have all the data. But yeah, Mizuki. So, she's on triple EMVV. I'm going to show you my Mizuki, because I am really proud of her build. I'm actually going to switch between the game and the theory crafting part. Do let me know if I end up missing any bit, like if I end up... So yeah, my Mizuki, she's on 1040 EM. Level 81, I'm looking to get her to level 90, but let me show you. Whoopsie daisy. Plus we need those books for Inefa. But yeah, her weapon is level 90 out of 90, R1. I'm looking to R5 it in the future. Her artifact, she's on 5 VV pieces. And what I do in game is I look what the game tells me is the best piece for her. And then I compare it to my goals, and I set those goals in the fast equip. And this is exactly what I was doing with the maths. I was setting stats, and I was setting the stats as priority stats. But yeah, my Mizuki is C1 by the way, and her talents are 587. I do update this in the data, so I'll show you how it works. So if Mizuki is 587, we go to my characters, go to Yuma Mizuki, and we see here she was at 144. So we go 587. I have to sit down. I'm probably gonna put on my YouTube watch list in the background and update all of these, and I'll probably do it today and tomorrow. But yeah, so if we go back to the builds, that means that Mizuki is double true. Now, here is somebody who is seen here as false, and the reason there are false here, I'll go until we have a double false, by the way, so you don't have to be scared about having to see this for all of my 84 characters. So C-Tween, I love C-Tween. I want to C6 R5, my DPS C-Tween. She is currently on a pathetic 23,000 HP, she needs more, and she also needs more EM because she is an electrocharge DPS. So imagine how nice this is going to be when we get Inefa. So she is on an R2 Silver Shower Heartstrings, so it is in desperate need of leveling. But I keep on needing the stupid Spring of Pure Sacred Dewdrop. They're starting to get on my nerves. And she's on 4-piece Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy, and Bennett, there, Farina needs to give back her goblet. So she's on a 5p whimsy. So technically, in the data, she should be under true. So the artifact set is present. But if we go back to my siege queen, so remember here it says ER, hydro damage, crit damage. So look what we have. We have HP, crit damage. So only one of these artifacts is correct. By the way, this is a good point to start talking about my start artifacts. So start artifacts are artifacts without missed sub-rules. So these are artifacts where I look at the artifact and I say this artifact is perfect for the character I want to play it on. So by the way, Layla and Siege Queen are actually going to switch artifacts. Switch goblets, because I know this is important. Technically, Layla is higher on the priority list of the builds than Siege Queen, so she should be getting the better goblet. But this goblet is on set for Siege Queen, so on set trumps higher on the list. And this is kind of how I sort all of my builds. And I've been strongboxing like crazy. Yeah, so here it's another thing, it's the same thing. Siege Queen needs the ER, and Cloran needs the EM. So now Siege Queen has no EM, but we will cope. We will cope. We will find the EM pieces. But yeah, so like this, we end up on how much ER? 129. She needs like 200 for this team to work properly. Hi there. How are you doing today? We are working through how I'm doing my build planning in R. But yeah, so Siege Queen. She, in the data, gets a true false. Obviously, we would want to turn this false into a true, but as long as somebody who starts with a false still exists, we are going to continue going down the list for the strongbox. Well, this is why I've only been rolling artifacts that have perfect subsets. So for those who are seeing the recording of this after, chatter had a couple of missed rolls on an artifact. Speaking of rolling, these are all my third artifacts. These are the ones that haven't had missed rolls so far. Like they might not be double crits, they just are what I want to have. For example, this is the crit rate circlet on Yelan. Yelan does well with attack, she does well with ER, she does well with EM unless I'm playing her in a freeze team, and of course she needs crit damage. So this was a 4-liner when I started rolling it. So I started because it had no rolls. Like none of the rolls could be like bad per se. It could be, some rolls are better than others, but none of them were bad. At the moment I am getting artifacts for Chaska and Inefa. So we are farming Obsidian Codex and strongboxing Thundering Fury. Well, I was strongboxing Thundering Fury. I am now strongboxing Marichose for Linny. So the reason this flower has a star is because Lynette, and when he played as a DPS, Novelette are also on Marichose, and they actually work well with HP. Yeah, ask ahead. So, but speaking of Linny, the reason I am not going back to Fragments of Harmonic Whimsy for Siege Queen is because we are gonna spend the rest of our time on UO server farming for poor Linny, who only has 2 artifacts. He is super low. So we are not gonna yoink artifacts from Lynette because she's higher on the list than him. So we just have to cope and get him some artifacts. But tonight we are not farming artifacts because look at my resin. Like, we'll probably do another run before I stop streaming. Just once, going back to the domain, but it'll be fine. So then this spreadsheet is gonna fill up. We are gonna be doing our theory crafting. I can't rate on Arla because I don't actually like use Arlecchino at all. I'm sorry. She's not a character whose kit I've ever engaged with in any way. I don't particularly like her in game. Like, you've probably played her story quest. And I really like Lynette and Fremine, as you can see from like my little priority list. And I don't like how the House of the Heart is run, so she's one of the characters I've been skipping for lore reasons whenever she's had a banner. This is just a CSV. So this is a software called Visual Studio Code. And this is a table that has been color coded so that every column is in a different color. What I use this for is these are all my builds and how they're supposed to look. So which weapon they're supposed to have, which artifacts that they're supposed to have, and which main stats the artifacts are supposed to have. And what I'm doing is I'm tracking which builds have been achieved. And then I'm strongboxing the highest false value on the list in the orange. That is why we're building Linear at the moment. And then what I do with the builds later is I use them in this software, which is our studio, which is a statistics software, to calculate the stats the character is going to have at level 90. So this is what all of this is. And then I can use this little table as a build comparison. And then it can look at the 4-piece sets, which is what I coded. And that is how far I got with the coding so far. I am just updating my artifact table because I've been strongboxing a lot recently. I just wanted to do just a little intro to how I code in R to help build very silly teams. Congrats on the math! Yeah, I'm less looking for big numbers and more looking for things like Mizuki Air Fryer. But yeah, I am actually gonna show you guys a build that I got by using this min-maxing on my artifacts to maximize stats rather than damage. So one thing I do is I build my supports. We're gonna have to steal a goblet from Bennett. I am short 1 HP goblet for my frequently used characters. But so I actually max out the talent scaling rather than the off-field damage. So Farina, if you look at her talents, which one is it? This one. Unheard Confession caps out at 40k HP. So Farina is at 43,000 HP with 185.8 ER. So now I can just once all her artifacts are leveled, but if I want improvements for her, I will just build more ER. So I will just look for things that maintain her HP and give her more ER and completely ignore her crit rate, because critting is nice, but 30% is enough for me. But what I want is I want the talent to be maxed. And what that gave me is a top 6% Shenhe on Akasha, which is really fun because I got all of this without trying to go for the leaderboards, but yeah. Hi there! So we've got a C0 R1 Shenhe on 4-piece noblesse, and what I did is I just put her fully on attack, and in the future any updates for her are really easy because all we're looking for is pieces that have ER substats, like high ER substats, because I don't really have ER rolls on her, which at the moment isn't that problematic because as you can see her from the team, I'm playing her on triple cryo. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the Natlan boss. You're not gonna see like 36 starting abyss kind of numbers, but you are gonna see numbers that are quite comfortable for overworld play and quite nice for level 70 characters. So for this team, Farina's level 81, Iskofia is at level 82, Shenhe is at level 80, and Ayaka is at level 71. If you want to min-max, Charlotte on Instructor works really well. But I'm just trying to like have fun with the team. I use Charlotte sometimes instead of Escoffier when I'm trying to play superconduct teams. But yeah, so this is a level 70 Ayaka with unleveled artifacts. And that is what you get when you build your supports as supports rather than sub DPSs. There's all our fanfare. For the longest time, I forgot to turn up the animations. And boom, there we go. Like, I'll show you the Ayaka build so you'll see why I end up with this. So my Ayaka is this, first of all, it's more of a melt than a attack build, and my Blizzard Strayer is actual trash. But she's not that high on the list. This crit damage circlet, I will level it at some point, but it's not very high on the priority because it does have some wasted substats. But what I'm gonna do is we need some hider enemies. Let me try something. Like, there's no sense going to a local legend, but I would like to show you my Fremine Shatter team. So what you do here, I'm using Escoffier because Charlotte currently... Actually, we can use Charlotte. Charlotte does work here. Where is she? Yeah, she's horrendously overleveled, but so is everyone I count. Don't mind the Beto, she is there instead of Inefa for now. We are not going to use this until against the freeze enemy because we can't shatter him. But I do have a couple of leyline of bounties to do. Actually, we'll just go fight the Ruin Guard in Mondstadt. So the reason we're using Nilu here is because of Key of Kashnisut. It gives EM. And this is actually a Shatter Fremine build. So this is why I do these things, because I want to have these little teams. I did a video on Shatter Fremine, and at the time I hadn't figured out the Nilo tech yet. So what you can do with Fremine is you give him as much EM as possible. So at the moment he's level 80, he's got only 629 EM, but the Rain Slasher is only level 60, so he'll get more. And I still have to level his artifacts. He's on 4-piece Gilded. My Fremine is sadly C0. When can this guy get a rerun, please? So what you do is you use a cryo healer. Charlotte works well. I like using Frostbearer on her because when you look at her talents, this one, she's got attack scaling on her burst, on her healing. So if you give her an attack weapon, she just heals faster. She's on Noblesse. To just give attack to the whole party, which also then heals faster. And Beto has nothing, because Beto is a placeholder. I think if we talk to Dr. Livingston, we get... So, Dr. Livingston... Okay, we'll handle that. So we have to go visit... We have to go bring a bag of goods to Dr. Edith. Who is here, and then we can go fight some nearby slimes. There will be a non-crit number. So this is important because we are incredibly low in enhancement odds. Yeah, but I see some slimes. They might die before we get the shatter in. But yeah, so what you do is you use the key on Nilu. If she triggers an elemental reaction, like Vape, the entire team gets EM. So now we have to superconduct to decrease the rest on his attacks, but then that 14,000 was the shatter. And this is why I do all of this. So yeah, this is how I'm starting my theory crafting journey.